think it's really cool to show the beginning of a job so that when you see the end of it, you kind of know what was involved in it going backward in time. So I'm going to go forward with telling you what's going on here, and then you'll see the end result and you'll know what I was up against. What is that? Oh, all right. So all of this prep was done by somebody else. It's not done by me. This is a cement wallboard. It doesn't have any name on it. I've looked for it. I think there's something there. I looked for it because I've never seen this pink-ish type of wallboard, but it is a HardieBacker type board. It's a cement board. Very, very difficult to penetrate through. You're not going to do it with nails. And I'm glad that somebody else had the opportunity to put this stuff up rather than me, because it's not easy to work with. Again, I don't really, how would I put it? I'm not really into the type of backer board. Anything will work. If it's waterproofed, then anything will work. I'm also not into tape, because tape is a crack preventer. And in that same light, any liquid topical membrane, whether it's RedGuard, Aqua Defense, Hydroban, A+9, and probably I'm missing a couple, are all crack preventers. So I think tape is redundant. Doesn't hurt anything, but it doesn't help. Anyway, they put some spray foam up there. No, that's not spray foam, that's caulking. They put some siliconized caulking up there for some reason, don't know why. So what we have here, there are some questions I still have. You see these two pipes sticking out of the wall. So that is going to be eventually a vanity. And you can see clearly that you have a drain pipe right there, and you're hot and you're cold. And this is going to be a shower. And this is what I'm doing. So yes, there's going to be a vanity inside of a shower. Why would they put a sink inside of a shower? I don't know. And it could be something totally different. I'm not really sure at this point. I don't believe I'm responsible for that. There's going to be, I believe if I'm not mistaken, where those lines are, there are going to be grab bars, I think. Shower valve was already pre-installed prior to me. Ooh, I like those stops. They've got stops in there so you don't have to take out the cartridge, or you don't have to shut the water off to take out the cartridge. Just turn those stops down, so I love that. Anyway, this is the outside edge. This is your finished edge of your tile. Most of these valves give you a little playroom, so even if you were deeper in like you are here, then that would be fine, but you have to also account for your tile and your thin set, and that's why you don't really want to push that limit. You know, this is enough room for my tile and my thin set, barely, but that's not quite enough. So I don't know what I'll do to tackle that, but moving on. There's a shower head. Moving on, this is going to be a curbless shower. So again, I'm walking in here, the way I'm looking at it now is the way you're looking at it. They did some demo on the concrete slab, obviously, and they have their drain in center, I believe, but it's not knocked down enough. I don't know where the drain is going to stop out, but that drain will be the catalyst for everything that gets knocked down going forward. That back end is much higher than this front end, obviously, upside down. But I can clearly see there's only about an inch, maybe an inch and a half of knockdown in the back over there, and then a good 2.5, 3 inches over there. So, and then way too deep over there. So yeah, I've got to knock some of this stuff down, obviously, because we don't have a good slope going on without this. Without a lot of this still have to be taken care of. The final look is going to be this ceramic. This is a glazed ceramic, kind of meant to replicate marble a little bit. And so this is going to go on all 4 walls all the way to the ceiling. I believe I'm doing the ceiling too. I think I'm doing the ceiling. And I don't know if it'll be in this or the mosaic. This is what they chose. Got a lot of it. This is what they chose for the shower floor. I'm not hip on this. I've done it quite a few times. With a marble like this, you have to seal it, pre-seal it prior to an installation. There's some possibility that moisture can get trapped underneath it, and then you end up with dark spots. typically around the drain area, but you end up with these dark spots that cannot go away because it can never, the moisture can't escape the way it got in. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm tiling these walls also. I don't think I'm doing the entirety of the wall. I think I'm only going up midway, but I'm wrapping around the tile all the way, all the way, all the way. This is what was handed to me, and I'm supposed to make it all look pretty, and that's my job here. Probably, most likely, a good part of 8 days to make this happen. It might push into 10 days. So I managed to knock off all these high spots, all these areas that I was concerned about, so I have a good amount of girth going on. Guessing probably it's pushing about 3 inches on the edge here, all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. And so I came in here with a shop vac and sucked up as much of the dust and loose rock and everything as possible. Because the next process I'm going to be doing is pouring concrete. Oh, by the way, I cut off the drain. So when you cut off the drain, getting a straight edge, kind of finding out exactly where your slope is going to be at, and you have to account for the depth of the drain from the bottom flange, because the bottom flange is where your concrete is going to go up to. So I've already done all that off camera. Then I went in and glued it in. And as I was gluing it in, I leveled it out. There's a little bit of play in these drains, and so you can see, just moving it with my thumb here, I can get it center. And I'm going to make sure that I do that. Actually, when I pour the concrete in there, I'll put in some extra rock up against the side of the drain so that I can get both sides level as possible. And the next step is pouring the concrete. And the concrete is going to go all the way up to the level of the rock right here, which will probably be around this level here. So the concrete will take up almost all of this that you see, and then the excess, I think there's probably about an inch or so of excess, will be mortar. And that will be a hard setting mortar, not quick setting mortar, but a hard setting mortar. And so then once I pour this concrete, and I'll probably slap some over there to take up that difference, because it's going literally down to the vapor barrier. So I'll throw some concrete over there, over here, quick set concrete. There's no reason to sit there and wait for a day to dry. And so I'll wait probably a couple hours, and I'll come back in and I'll screed all my mortar, mix all my mortar. I'll get a slurry of thin set and wet this down really well. And that slurry meaning that it's really loose thin set, where it just kind of drips off of your, so I'll throw some of that down there first before I put my mortar in, and then I'll screed all my mortar from the edge of these little paver things, because that's my perimeter. And so I'll screed all my mortar down to the edge of the drain, right? That's where all the slope will be. And that will be the catalyst for everything that follows, because there is no pan, meaning that once I've done my screed, that is the pan. And then I'll just waterproof that about 3 or 4 days later as I waterproof everything else in here, and then I'm ready to tile. Excellent idea, excellent idea. So I was wrong, I didn't have a bag and a half, I had 2 bags, and I used the whole 2 bags in here, believe it or not. So I'm good. I have a lot less distance to cover down here with the drain with my mortar pack, and everything is filled in. Yes, sometimes there's nothing in a book that tells you the next process, or the next best process, put it that way. I think this is one of my highest spots. There's a couple of them, my little islands. But anyway, yeah, sometimes the book doesn't tell you what you need to know or what will make your job easier, because mixing this up with my mixer, a whole lot easier than mixing all of these bags by hand with the shovel and hoe. And yeah, the only bad thing is I gotta leave now. Let that set up overnight, come back tomorrow and screed out all my mortar down to my drain edge. Yes. So this is the next day, and I really like how this turned out. It cut down on how much mortar I have to use, but I'm going to get started. mix up some slurry thin set and just kind of screed that around kind of willy-nilly. It just helps the mortar stick to this surface a lot better. I'm almost done with this screeding of my mortar. I have a fairly decent buildup. So this is a thin set, and it doesn't matter if it's modified or unmodified for those that want to know. I use white only so I can see it. You could use gray if you wanted to. But I'm just basically putting this onto the concrete surface to make sure that my mortar sticks really well. But make sure that you wet down your concrete surface really well, because any type of cement material wants to stick to a wetted material as opposed to a dry material. And since we have the concrete below here, I just want to make sure that it sticks really well. And then all my mortar is mixed up already, so I'm just going to kind of just throw it in there on top of it and then pack it down like I've done over here. Screed it off. In this case, I screeded it off to the bottom of the wallboard because that's where I will be starting my tile. My tile will take up that difference that you see over there on the back. You want there to be a pitch of that 1/4 inch per foot. If you get a little bit more, then that's fine. That's much more than a 1/4 inch per foot, which is great. So I'm checking my level as I'm screeding this out on all 4 sides. On this corner, that corner, that corner, and then eventually this corner. And then as well, I'm making sure that, that I'm level going around my perimeter. Again, does it have to be perfect? Not necessarily, but in this case, I know exactly the tile that I'm setting, which is a very, very small mosaic tile. So for that reason alone, I don't want to put a lot of thin set on here. I don't want to have any dips. I don't want to have any humps the next day, so that that mosaic tile fits on there like a glove, where I just screed out a little bit of thin set, push it down, and I don't have to worry about anything else. So prep is the most important part. Know that to be true about building a shower, and this is the most important part of a shower. Well, I have finished off the last 1/4 part, and you want look at that, it's almost a perfect level right there, and look at that slope right away. Yeah, so that's kind of what you're looking to get done. And even from the corner, I guess I got level right there, and a little slighter slope going on. That is level right there. Yeah, got a nice slope going on. So I'm going to put a fan on this. I'm not putting a fan directly on it, nor am I putting on high speed. I'm going to put it on a medium speed way back here. I'm just letting the air circulate, because any cement product actually cures on its own. It doesn't want or need air to make that happen. So you don't want to do that. You want to let it cure naturally. But I still want a little air movement, because in 2 days I want to be able to red guard this. It is the next day, and this shower pan is basically, there are a couple of things I did off camera where this little paver stuff was butted up against the concrete. I kind of chipped that off because I know I need a flat surface for my floor tile to go on. Then I'm going to put this sheet of Schluter down. I'm going to put this down first, glue that down to the floor, treat this as a pan liner as I would in any normal application. And then I'll make my little X right where the drain is at, my little bolt cuts, my little X's for the bolts. And I'll put my locking flange on top of this, as I would with a normal pan liner, because I hadn't really intended on using a pan liner in here. There's no necessity for that, although I could. I just plan on red guarding the whole thing. So going forward, I'm going to fill this in with some quick setting concrete mix, cement mix, as I was. So the cement, quick setting will get pushed inside of that, pushed inside, and all that stuff, so that I'll have a contiguous surface of, tile to floor. I'm going to screed out some thin set. I'm going to push it down into the mortar bed proper and let that dry for a wee bit. And then at that point, I'll be able to screed out some more thin set on top of this liner. kind of at an angle, because this is actually pretty deep. If you notice yesterday, where's my, I don't know where it's at now. So level on my floor is here, and look how deep that is. I got about 1.5 inches or better down to the drain. And so even with the drain cap on there, I'm still good. So that's my plan. I'm going to work that out. So I have glued down the piece of Schluter. Came out very, very nicely. As I said, I did center cut on the drain, put the locking flange on, had the little X cuts on the bolts, same as I would a liner. That will get overlap with the red guard, obviously. And then I used the cardboard backing that this had. I used 2 sheets of this very thin cardboard backing to represent my thin set. And look at that. Yeah. There are only solutions in life, never problems. So yesterday I came in here and I did all my red guard and looking good. Well, so I scraped off a bunch of areas, prepped it for red guard, and then I did my red guard. That's important to know. I went outside probably 8-9 inches. Normally on a curbless shower, as a rule, you want to do the whole floor, the whole outside floor, just in case there's a backup. But this being a basement and a concrete slab, I'm not really worried about if there's a backup. If there's ever a backup, it's kind of innocuous, won't hurt anything. I silicone all around the base of this drain. And obviously there's some thin set and the red guard and all kinds of stuff going on here. So the idea being is that even though, you know, the weep holes and all that, bolts and all that stuff is covered up now, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter because it's not being used. Only the drain is being used. In fact, I could probably use some type of factory drain, meaning like a commercial drain for this rather than a 3-part drain. Lay out your tile, especially mosaic, prior to setting. It just makes life much easier. You see all my rounded edges are all the way around, all the way to the top. I'll take out those top pieces too, which I haven't done yet, so that all my fill-in pieces will be only half of one of these later on. So I'm just going to cut all of these scrap half pieces and fill those in later, which is a real pain, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway, so one of my tile with my thin set included will now match up perfectly to actually just above the drain, which is where I like it to be. I don't want it to be flush with the drain. It's flush with the drain right now. In fact, it's a tad bit higher than the drain, but that's a good thing. And then my thin set will take up that difference so that I can be a little bit above it. So yeah, it worked out very, very nicely. But after I do this mosaic, then I will come back in here, do a second coat of red guard, and then within about 1.5 hours to 2 hours or so after that, I'll be able to set all my floor tile. So yes, mosaics, if I had a niche, the mosaic, the niche, and the floor go first before all your field tile. So I'm going to get started. I did the mosaic on the wall and actually grouted that as soon as I got here, so that is finished. Don't have to worry about that anymore. If you're going to be doing some centerpiece like this, I highly recommend you do that first. Your tile is going to wrap around all of that. It should go without saying, but I'm just saying it because some people don't know. Yeah, and so I've dry fit all the mosaic on the floor. A couple of things I want to say about this. If you're going to do something like this as a DIY project yourself, right, you're going to make sure, as I don't know if I mentioned it. If I didn't mention it, do your floor outside first. Get a little rise that you might need. This tile is at least as thick, if not thicker, than my field tile. So therefore, definitely want to do this first so that you can get a little 1/8 of an inch rise that you're going to be using for your thin set on the floor eventually. But more importantly, 2 things. Dry fit all of your tile. Highly, highly recommend to dry fit your tile prior to setting them for 2 reasons. 1, obviously you want to make sure that everything fits. 2, most importantly, you don't want to run out of tile. I've got, I think, 4 or 5 sheets left. which is great, but I don't know that until I dry fit, right? And so the last thing you want to do is start setting tile, have to stop and run to Home Depot, or heaven forbid, stop the job until the next day. Don't do that. If you're going to set one piece of tile, set all the tile all in one fell swoop. So making sure that you actually have enough tile is number one to the reasoning why you drew the dry fit. But also it lets you know where your cuts are at. So in this case, I knew that I had to shave off, and I literally shaved off each piece of tile going around the perimeter. All the way to the back, I didn't shave that. Those will be fill-in pieces, but I did shave off everywhere else along the perimeter. Makes life much easier so that you can get a perfect fit, that you know where everything goes prior to mixing up your thin set and setting them. So I am back. I took a day off. My only day this week that I took off. Obviously you already saw the mosaic on the wall. It is completed, it is grouted, it is set up for a couple of days. This is set up for a day and a half. So turned out very nice. I like the result. Everything just kind of goes from the outside shower in, and there's a very, very small lip here, maybe not even quite 1/8 of an inch, so that there's positive water flow going in. But I'm going to do a little water test with a 5-gallon bucket, which I don't normally do. Very nice. That mark was originally 5 3/4, and I raised it to right at 6 inches because I know this is my lowest spot in the shower. So I'm going to be right at about 6 inches, which is the size of the tile I'm setting. As it goes around this way, I think that's 5 3/4, and then it kind of goes to about no, sorry, my bad. It's 5 1/2, and then it kind of rises to 5 3/4 because, you know, the room isn't exactly, but I want my tile to be exactly as much as possible. So I'm going to put a ledger board right on top of that line that I shot, and then the first row will go last, and I will start tiling going upward from that line. So I have to follow this line regardless of the tile. I have to follow that line for that base tile first, and then my next row will wrap around up to that point, and then wrap around and it'll be white tile above that. And this shower is finished, finally. Been here for quite a long time. 2 weeks as of today to do this by myself. So I have the Schluter trim at the front, I have the Schluter trim along the top, 3 foot up all the way around. Yeah, looking very, very nice. So now it has definitively dropped down right at this point here. In fact, I raised up this tile maybe 1/8 of an inch, not quite 1/8 of an inch, for positive water flow to go down and into the drain. So looking very nice. And of course everything is nice and flush around there. And then we get to the mosaic on the wall, shelves, his and her shelves. Grouting the ceiling is not fun. There's going to be a sink in here. I think I explained that before. Looking very, very nice. And of course the Schluter on the edge of here and the 3 foot up. And then there's going to be a vanity here. Iron pipe, don't know why. But yeah, 2 weeks later, finished. Not sure what that is.
I think that's a medical alert button that's going to go there. Low voltage wire goes to the telephone or something to that effect. I like things that are different. This is definitely different. Bit of a challenge, but I enjoy it. And so I'm off to the next job, and they are very happy. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, loving it. Hey, if you enjoyed that video and you learned something, consider being a Patreon member. $5, $10, $15 a month would help me greatly produce more videos. I make nothing from YouTube at all. If you're gonna call me for advice, please donate $50 for 30 minutes. My link to my PayPal and my Patreon account is down below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get immediate notifications as soon as I post videos. And thank you very much for your support.